Good day, class! Today, I will be discussing to you on how to identify and correctly write various parts of speech, including the usage of verbs and its different forms. Further talk about the topic. Class, I will ask you a question. Remember last week, when we talked about nouns, then we went around the room and found all the things that were nouns. That's right, class. A noun is a person, place, or a thing. Well, today, we are going to talk about verbs. We all know that verb is an action word that tells us what a noun is doing. Class, verbs are very important because without them, we cannot make a sentence. We also know that verb has a big part in English language convention. For today's topic, we will be covering up the principal forms of verbs and the past participle forms of verbs. Class, always remember that there are two kinds of verbs, the regular verbs and the irregular verbs. After the discussion, you will be able to understand the two kinds of verbs and its usage. Also, you are able to define and analyze the forms of verbs. So class, please listen very attentively because after this, you will be answering two different activities that I have been prepared. Good luck! Principal forms of verbs. English has two kinds of verbs, regular and irregular. Different forms of these verbs exist in order to express different times or what we call the tenses. For example, the present, past, and future. Most verbs have four forms. The base form or the form found in the dictionary, the S form, the ing or the present participle form, and the ed or the past or past participle form. Now class, let's take a look with this example. At the first column, it has two examples of words for base form. The first one is jump and the second one is work. For the second column, we will now apply the S form. The word jump becomes jumps and the word work becomes works. Then, to the third column, by adding ing form or the present participle, the jumps become jumping and the works becomes working. And then for the last column, by adding ed form or the past form or past participle, the word jumping becomes jumped and the word working becomes worked. Regardless of whether a verb is regular or irregular, the S form of a verb is formed simply by adding S or sometimes ES to the end of the verb. The present participle of both kinds of a verbs is formed by adding ing and using an auxiliary verb. The past participle of both kinds of verbs also requires the use of a helping verb. However, regular and irregular verbs differ in how they form their past and past participle form. Now, let's proceed to the past and past participle forms of verbs. The primary difference between regular and irregular verbs is how they form their past and past participle forms. Regular verbs follow the pattern described above. They just add d or ed. However, irregular verbs are unpredictable. When describing past actions, they might stay the same, change just a part of a word, or change the whole word. Some irregular verbs follow a pattern and others are not. Now for both regular and irregular verbs, class, always remember that words or expressions like yesterday, earlier, last year, and formerly, which indicate past time, are a clue that you need to use the past tense or past participle form of a verb. Another clue may be a past tense or past participle form of a verb elsewhere in the sentence in a clause beginning with a word such as after, although, because, since, or when. And then the important point to remember is that when such a clue appears, the past tense or past participles is needed. Note the clues in the following sentences. Yesterday it snowed at 3 o'clock because he stayed late. We waited for the call. Another point to remember is that when different tense forms are used in a single sentence, the tense forms should appear in logical sequences. Okay, class, now, after listening to my discussion and jotting down some important notes, you are now going to answer the 2 activities. So please prepare your ballpen and paper. The first activity will be answered within 12 minutes. It would be easy to you to answer if you listen very carefully to my discussion. So class, please read the instruction. After answering the first activity, let's now proceed to the second activity. The second activity will be answered within 15 minutes. Always read first the instruction. Good luck, guys! I hope you can get the high score. Okay, class, it's already time. I hope you are done answering the activity. Tomorrow we will check your work. Goodbye!